Welcome to Stories We Love. Stories We Love is about stories we love. And we bring you extraordinary people who are truly caring about something in this world and making a positive difference that benefits people and this gorgeous world and its amazing creatures. And who remind us that even as one person, we have so much more power than we can imagine. And they also might help open your mind, open your heart, and give you new ideas, which is what we want. So more of us get to be doing more fun things that benefit the world. My name's Karen Lorre. You can find the full playlist of Stories We Love at storieswelove.com. And today I get to talk to Evan Marks, who runs the Ecology Center in San Juan Capistrano. And Evan, talk to us first. What is the Ecology Center?
Hi, Karen. I'm honored to be here. Yeah, the Ecology Center is a creative endeavor. It's an ecological education center and nonprofit. And I think in some simple and complex way, it's a laboratory for the future. And so we're really trying to explore what it looks like and feels like and tastes like when humans are in harmony with the planet and with each other. And so there are many different offerings and programs and experiences that we provide here, but it's seeking to bring our values into the real world.
I love that. So when you talk about bringing your values into the real world, talk to me about what you value and how you do that there, because that's so cool. I like to do everything that in my own value as well.
Our values have kind of three core principles, and it's care for the planet, it's care for the people, and it's share the surplus. And so in all we do is trying to model those three core values, those ethics.
I love that. And how do you model it at the Ecology Center? Like, in what way? You mentioned that you have a whole bunch of different programs. To share some of how it works.
Yeah, we model it as it's a microcosm. So those ethics go into really all of the expressions here. So at the core of it, we're a farm, a 28-acre certified regenerative organic farm. And so that's a fairly large offering, fairly large production in the middle of suburban Orange County, and really the last of its kind, or we call the first in a new generation of ecological stewards. And so in that 28 acres, we are building a farm that lives those values as an example, right? So we care for the planet, is that we have an agriculture. We grow a diversity of about 200 different ingredients, fruits, vegetables, and flowers that are really modeling an ecological agriculture from the soil up. We care for the people in that we pay all of our into everyone on our staff, and especially our farm team, living wages with great benefits and a great quality of life and balance between work and play. And then the sharing of the surplus is that we donate about 10 to 20% of our production to our food insecure neighbors, we call nourishing neighbors. So again, that's one example of the values that work around our agriculture.
Wow, that feels so beautiful. You're making me cry. I love that.
Thanks, Karen.
Well, it's so important that we live among or live in alignment with what we value. So I try to do things that are, I also only eat organic and hopefully as much as I can regenerative and biodynamic. And I love that you're doing that. How did you get into farming? Well, first, what was how did you get into this place of caring about the earth and about people and about sharing your surplus? What was that about for you? Was it with a kid that you got inspired, or how?
Yeah, well, as a kid, I grew up in Newport Beach, passionate about surfing. And by the time I was a teenager, I started picking up trash on the beach and learning about the environment and really the negative impacts that we humans have on this beautiful planet. And I just kind of kept following that upstream. And I was at 17, I learned that agriculture was sort of what was killing the oceans by and large. And just kind of put two and two together. What was killing the ocean was also killing us. And I always loved being outdoors. I loved gardening with my mom. And I took a step towards the idea of what would it be to change that statistic and to change that, yeah, in my life. So could I be a farmer? Could I design and be a part of farms that were counter to that, that were actually energy and life giving rather than consuming and killing? And so early on that journey, I took what's called a permaculture design course in the year 2000, so 22 years ago. And those are early formative moments for me. And that permaculture course, for example, is really about building an earth care, with those ethics as the drivers. And so those ethics can be embodied in all walks of life, not just farmers, but in everything we do. How do we explore? How do we give more than we take? And how do we live in integrity with the things that are, the most core to our well-being?
I love that. Sounds like you have a good relationship with your mom. Can you talk about that a little bit?
I do have a good relationship with my mom. My mom is a really amazing human. She's pretty feisty and very creative and really smart and kind of gets a lot done. And so it's a really important and critical piece to the success of the Ecology Center for many years. This is a family organization, and so we're 12, 13 years into this. We have about 80 employees now, but for a long time it was me and my mom and my wife and my dad and my friends, and and we started with nothing in a dirt lot in an empty farmhouse. And so my mom was very instrumental in much of our success.
I love that. And your dad too, sounds like you have a good relationship with him. I love that because it seems like a lot of people that are doing good in the world, they almost all have good moms, often have good dads, and they've probably had some experience in nature. And being a surfer, I went to UC Irvine, so I know you well. Yeah, I love that school, and so just being out in the ocean, and having that connection with the ocean, and probably the dolphins and whales and the other creatures that are out there. It's so fascinating to be in the ocean. I used to live on a sailboat. I sailed from California to Hawaii, so I really love the ocean also. So it's so inspiring, just to be on it or in it or near it, so I love that. And then how did you get to the place? So you took a permaculture class, and then you get your family and your friends to be slave labor. And then you now you have 28 acres. How did that come about that you got so much more acreage? Like, how did that happen?
Well, one step at a time, so from taking a permaculture course, I ended up with a degree at UC Santa Cruz in agroecology. And I took that mostly on the road into Latin America for 7 years, and designed and managed farms and designed ecological communities, and I've also taught permaculture courses and various other projects, and learned a lot. Ended up into West Africa on a couple different projects, and that was when the light bulb went off of there's a lot of work that needs to be done all over the planet, and this work that I was so passionate about was really serving me as well as serving, I believe, the communities that I was in relationship to. And I kind of decided that this needed to happen where I came from with. So that was kind of the most important, the next obvious step for me was to come back to Orange County after about 10 years of being out in the world, putting these ideas to work, and see what would happen in the least likely place. Yeah, so that's a little bit of the journey, but yeah, one step at a time, just kind of small scale solutions building on each other.
I love that. And then, so can you talk about, like, the people who don't know what regenerative or organic or biodynamic is, can you talk about the difference between that and traditional, at least American farming? I shouldn't say traditional, but current common American farming that's happening in most places in the Midwest and across the country, really. Can you talk about the difference of that?
Yeah, maybe that's probably best as the industrial
Yeah.
kind of oppressive agriculture. And Agriculture is a beautiful thing. I think all farmers, regardless of their methodologies, endeavor to have a relationship with the planet and and I think their customers, the people that they're feeding. And many farmers and to continuously are just being sold the wrong seed, the wrong ideas, the wrong technologies, and it's not their fault. I would like to say there's no blame to be put. It's just that there's opportunities in the evolution and getting back to some of these older ideas that are updated and upgraded into the 21st century. And some of the terms you're using help us guide, help us understand what we're talking about. So for example, organic is a word that's really like the first tier of getting towards an ecological stewardship, but it's the first step, not the long many steps. So organic really at this point means pulling poisons out of the soil and off the land. And so when we buy organic food from a local artisan farmer like the Ecology Center, that they're putting good, they're in good care of the soil, and your ingredients are healthy for you and that they're not full of poison. Simultaneously, when you buy organic food from a conventional supermarket, it's better than the food that's conventional, in my opinion, because it doesn't have poison all over it.
And by poison, you're referring to pesticides and fertilizers, or what are you probably antibiotics if it's in animals, hormones? What else?
Yeah, and I shouldn't. Yeah, I'm using some generalizations, so I apologize for that. But in general, yeah, farmers are able to substitute in a conventional, which is the opposite of organic, synthetic fertilizers, pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, whatever the tool is needed at the time, with mostly kind of mined fossil fuel oriented chemistry. And the organic option of that is, at its core, where organic started was very much biological based, in that we don't want to put, say, synthetic fertilizers onto our farm, that they're being mined and extracted. We can use compost and horse and animal manures and various things like that. And so cover cropping as alternatives to biological fertilizer.
And when you say cover cropping, just for people who don't know what that is, what is that to you? What is cover cropping?
Cover cropping is when we plant a crop specifically for the health of the soil. And so these are nutrients for the soil. There's food for the soil. So these are mostly legumes that add nitrogen from the atmosphere and they fix it into the soil. And then other grasses and various other plants that create biomass that is really the food for the biology, the micro elements and organisms that allow us to create a more whole, healthy soil ecology. And it's the soil is sort of like the biome, in that the diversity creates the health. And so when we eat a diversity of ingredients, a rainbow of color, as we like to promote, then our bodies are healthy and we're able to fend off any toxins. The same with our agriculture, the same with our soil. When our soil is full and healthy and filled with not just the macronutrients like nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus, but all the micro elements, the trace elements, there's a cornucopia of things that we can feed into our soil to measure its health. That's when it can fend off the pest pressures. That's when the plants grow really healthy. That's kind of I'm circling around these ideas of soil health, but it's really starting with the preventative awareness that we can add nutrition and diversity to the health of our agriculture, and starting with the soil, and that makes a healthy farm.
Yeah. And one of the things, another person on Stories We Love, the second episode, Dr. Gundi, she talked about how soil has all our vitamins, minerals, even our probiotics. A lot of it comes from the soil. And so if you're doing conventional farming, the soil is getting degraded, from what I understand, and a lot of topsoil can fall off or get run off during rains or storms into local rivers, and then with all the pesticides, it can damage the waters or the ocean. And so the biodiversity that you're talking about in the soil is having the different kinds of manure, the different kinds of worms, or like how do you create the biodiversity? You're planting new things too, right? So you say you're doing the cover crops. That's part of creating the biodiversity in the soil. Is that right?
Hmm. Yeah. So it's really about feeding the microorganisms that are doing the hard work for us. So it's not actually putting the organisms in there per se. The worms come when there's a need for the worms. Like we use worms specifically for composting, and that's different than what we're talking about across a farm, a field scale.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we want to look at constantly how we feed and care for the soil. And so they need food, they need moisture, and they need shelter, just like almost every other organism on this planet. And so we can do that at the farm scale by feeding them biomass, adding manures. We can feed them by just keeping a healthy diversity of rotation and cropping. We can feed them and give them the moisture they need, obviously by keeping the moisture healthy in the soil through irrigation, mulch, shelter, all those types of ideas. And yeah, so it's kind of a lot of this really for me is about biomimicry. It's coming back to the ecologies that are healthy without humans, and how do we mimic those and model those in a human environment like a farm.
I love that so much. So yeah, because I kind of try to do like I eat in a biomimicry way, in the sense that I eat in a way where probably people ate before there was agriculture. You know,
Mm.
so that I eat lots of vegetables, sometimes meat, sometimes nuts, seeds. That's kind of all I eat, and I like that. It feels like my body really likes that. So I love when you're saying biomimicry, and when you said originally at some point in this conversation, you mentioned that you're doing this in the old way of doing things, and you're referring to, by old way, you're referring to like the way nature does it, the way the indigenous peoples have done it. Is that right, when you're talking about the way farming actually?
That's a good question. I think more in the old way, where the farm was more of a holistic ecology, where you had you know you had animals integrated to the cropping patterning that rotated around the farm, and there was a seasonal cycle and general awareness to the health of the farm, because this is a multi-generational endeavor. And so there was stewardship that was being passed down, and knowledge and seed and genetics and culture and practice. So yeah, I think that's kind of what I'm referencing, less around yes, and that there's a lot to reference and model from indigenous communities and cultures. So yeah, a little bit of both.
Yeah, and then when you're talking about these multi-generational farms, it really, if grandparents care about their kids and care about the grandkids, they're going to want the farm to be nutritional. Have you seen anything, like when you talk about the seeds? I know that they've got patents. Monsanto, I believe, has patents on certain seeds, which are they all GMO seeds, or are there any seeds that Monsanto has a patent on that are not GMO? And how do you get seeds that are not GMO and that are not patented and that are, healthy seeds? How do you get actual seeds that you want to have the food from?
Yeah, patenting seed in life is really complex and unfortunate for me. And that when you own the seed, you own the people. And that's what these corporations have done so maliciously for the last couple of decades, is really consolidated all of the seed into the ownership of just a few, and then kind of enslaved the farmers because they're dependent on the genetics, and many of them are patented, which means that you can't reproduce and save that seed on your own without infringing on a patent, and they will come and sue you even if you did not sow that seed directly and intentionally.
Right, just
So
if something dropped into the soil and it started to sprout, you could get sued. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, there's a famous case from 20 years ago. His name's Percy Smyser, and he was a famous canola farmer from central Canada. and he was an organic farmer, and some seed blew into his farm. That's the last thing he wants to grow is non-organic seed. It's going to contaminate his whole farm. Somehow, I don't remember the story, whether he found out or someone else came onto his farm and saw that there was something else growing. Monsanto sued him for stealing their genetics, and he said, I've got nothing to do with what you, I don't know, I've never bought seed from you. I save my own seed. I've been doing this for generations. I'm an organic farmer. And they sued him for a lot of money, and he lost.
Wow.
And that was
yeah, that's so crazy, because there's wind and there's birds and other animals that eat the seeds don't digest fully, and then they get deposited and they grow. So I can't believe that he won. That must have been something not
no, he lost. So the
that's what I mean. He lost.
And then,
yeah,
and then if you think about, corn is a commodity, unfortunately, these days, that's wind pollinated. And so you have wind pollen moving through miles of distance and moving genetics into field to field to field. And whose fault is that? That's contamination from where I come from, not theft.
Right.
And
yeah, I agree.
So let's talk about, this is a really disgusting conversation, and it's
I agree.
And I think that where we could take this is really talking about the antithesis of this, which is that farmers still can keep their sovereignty, and that does come through seed. And that's what we try to model here at the Ecology Center. We don't do it with everything we grow. We grow about 200 different varieties of vegetables and flowers, but we try to save and create culture around the things that are most important to us.
Mm-hmm.
And so those are corn, beans, and greens, and some fruit. And when we save seed on our farm, so when we grow out a tomato or a pepper or various other things, we can save that fruit, and we can save the seed within that fruit, and it improves year to year if we do a good job, and it's free. And so not only are we saving money, but we're actually building the genetic capacity of that seed to best perform in our environment for our desired needs and wants. Oh, we like the flavor of this. We like the color of that. Oh, this works good in the drought. This is great in our heavy soil. Those types of things. And so that's how agriculture has always been. That is really the culture in agriculture, one of the many elements of it. And so that's sort of the coming home, is that when farmers can take back their seed, then they've re-engaged in their power. And we got work to do there, because unfortunately most farmers have been sold, like I said, the wrong tools and technologies. And so they gave up their grandmothers and their grandfathers' seed collection, and they bought the high yielding, smoke and mirrors of the genetic alterations that were patented and unable to be replicated on their own farm. Every year they're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on seed, when traditionally they would kept that culture and save that money.
Right.
And so it's this, this seed mostly is bred to be resistant to Roundup and various other poisons. So of course they want that. It's like, you can buy our seed, and then you can buy our poisons, and you can spray a ton of it, and it won't kill your crop. So you're now completely indebted, because you got to spray. And then this is kind of going full circle from our earlier conversation. When you spray synthetic fertilizers on the ground, it kills all life.
Right.
It doesn't create life, it kills life. So then what happens? Then you have a plant growing that's got really no immune system. So when you have pests coming, spray. Oh, then you're going to kill more life. Spray. It's like this constant battle, and it's part of probably what some cancer patients are feeling when they have chemotherapy.
And actually, people
hard
have
to find health.
There's been a lawsuit against Roundup, Monsanto, because people actually got cancer, I think Hodgkin's lymphoma, from Roundup, working with it.
So I know millions of people. Yeah,
I'm sure. I think they are now showing that it's got some trickiness to it that we don't want. Yeah, and so then how is it that you're growing this, you're nurturing the soil, and you're making the seeds better and better every season. So what is the trick then? If I was a farmer who had been doing conventional farming, which I would never do, but let's say I was, if I was doing that and I wanted to transfer my farm into an organic, biodynamic, organic, regenerative farm, how do you stop the pests from coming? How do you regenerate the soil? How do you do those kinds of things? Do you mind me asking that? Because I think this is
No.
what you're modeling and what you're doing, and this is something you teach also to your community, right?
Yeah, we have a farm apprenticeship program, and we're trying to educate the community at large. And there's really a transition period, and there's a way of bridging the gap from a conventional to an organic and a beyond an ecological regenerative operation. I think the bigger piece and challenge for the farmer is understanding how to build a market for their premium products. So by and large, most farmers, especially at a medium to large scale, they don't have a relationship with the customer. They're all moving through a packing house. And so they're basically just doing what their neighbors are doing, because they know that if they're in the Central Valley, they can do almonds because their neighbor does almonds. So they're going to plant almonds, and then the price of almonds go up and down. But by and large, they're going to make a penny a pound. And then they scale up as big as they can, and the market crashes and they lose all their money or whatever. I'm just giving you these random analogies, but the hardest part in making an ecological agriculture work is finding a market. And there's for us, it's easy because we're in the middle of a community, and that's the model that I've been farming for over 20 years, is having a relationship with your community. And that's hopefully what we've learned a little bit out of this pandemic is the connection that as individually we need with a farmer and other producers. As, hey, I didn't know who's farming in my backyard, or what the fishermen are doing, or this, that, or the other, but we're learning hopefully to connect to producers for resiliency purposes. That would be my thought is in terms of scaling from a conventional to an ecological agriculture, is how do we connect market and opportunity to these farmers where they can find the resources, the financial resources, to bridge the gap over those few years. It's usually in certifications 3 years from conventional organic, where they can invest in the farm, invest in cover cropping, invest in organic fertilizers and manures, invest in better seed, and a whole slew of other ideas that'll create a more whole and ecological farm rather than just a conventional factory on the land. And it's complex.
Yeah, I love that though, because it doesn't sound like such a long time. 3 years, I mean, it is hard if you're, maybe you do a portion of your farm to start off, and so you have your other farm that's still making money, and then you have some part that you're getting organic, and then as that gets organic and you know how to do it, you can go and expand your thing. I don't know, but I love that. And then what is it you said you have a farmer apprenticeship? Talk to me about that.
Yeah. So our goal is, like I said, this is the first in a new generation of farms. And so we want to incubate and mentor dozens of farmers and farms throughout our bioregion of Southern California. And so, we bring in the young, motivated, aspirational farmers. Last year we had 8. This year we have 2 apprentices, and we train them up on our techniques and tools. And they spend a season with us, and then we help find them opportunities. And it's been really rewarding. That's how I cut my teeth. After getting a degree in agroecology, I apprenticed on a farm for a year, and I really learned a lot of practical knowledge and skills, and then took it into the world.
I love that. I felt chills. I love everything you're saying. It's so beautiful, and I think, I only buy organic. If I don't hardly even go to restaurants anymore, because I really like organic so much. And I used to like going out, but I would rather cook, because I know I have control of getting organic, biodynamic, regenerative. I have a grocery store I go to who buys all produce is organic, and they're really branching out. They now ship all over the United States. And so I'm thinking that, maybe I can hook them up with some conventional farmers who are wanting to shift, and maybe they would be a supportive place. I don't know. I'm just thinking, but I love what you're doing. And talk to me about like how your community has benefited you and how you get benefit from having the community.
I mean, where it's mutually dependent. We wouldn't be here without the support of our community, and our model is one that's part social enterprise. So we grow food for direct to community, and we have a CSA or a harvest box. So about 650, 700 families on that program. And then we have a farm store brick and mortar where people come by the hundreds every day to buy their basic needs.
Wow. And then you also do delivery, right?
And so we depend on the community to sustain the farm. Some of that's delivery, but yeah, mostly it's people coming to our farm.
I love that. Yeah, the reason I even know about you is because one of my friends, Byron Myers, who I went to junior high school with, told me about you. And I believe he's one of your customers and he's gone to some of your events and stuff. So yeah, that's awesome.
So that's the other side of the business where we do programming with farm dinners, for example, or field trips for children and various other educational programs that philanthropy helps support and subsidize. So yeah, we're all here for the community, and with the support of the community, it means a lot.
Oh, that feels beautiful. And it sounds like, you have a family. Do you have children yourself?
Yeah, I've got a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old.
Oh, wow. But it also sounds like you're being able to mentor or parent some of the kids that are coming under the apprenticeship, where they come for a while, that you get to experience older kids and share your love and your wisdom with them.
Yeah, also. I hope so. I hope so.
Yeah, well, I mean, it seems obvious, if they are sticking with you for a season, they have to like it, and they have to like you, they have to like farming, and they have to like what you're teaching, or they wouldn't stay. I mean, that's
fortunate though.
Yeah, that's the genius of teenagers. They're not interested, they're not staying. And I love that. Wow, is there anything I'm not asking you that I should ask you? Because this is so interesting to me. I just love what you're doing. I love your intention to live in harmony with what your values are. I love your intention to share this with your community. I love your community. I love that when you said you give out 647,000, what is that? What did you say?
Well, we have about 650 families on our Harvest Box program. So they get weekly subscription of our ingredients. And then we donate to over 100 families every week, mostly prepared meals, but we donate a lot of ingredients to the community at large. And invitation for all to come visit. We're in San Juan Capistrano. It's a really great community, and we're really holding down the agrarian values of the future, and building a village for all ages to imagine something that's delicious and beautiful and fun.
I love that so much. And then the other question I have is, have you noticed, since you've been doing this kind of farming, more biodiversity in the birds, in the insects, in the creatures that are around your farm? Do you get a greater biodiversity of them as well?
Tons, yeah. I mean, first season we had a lot of crows. Crows are, bring a strong medicine. They're very they're very aggressive. They're smart. They would come in after our fresh plantings and pull a lot of the seedlings out of the ground. And they're just like kind of like gave us a hard time. They'd eat a lot of some of our early fruit. And now, just literally a couple seasons later, it was the raptors starting to create equilibrium within the ecology. And so it's like, yeah, there's still crows, and yeah, there's rabbits, and we're learning how to like dance with all of these kind of general pressures, and find that place where there can be coexistence.
And when you said raptors, so hawks and falcons and things like that, is that what you said?
Yeah, mostly the hawks and the owls.
Yeah, owls. We have owls. Hoo, hoo, hoo.
Yeah.
I have a very good owl accent, I was told. I love that so much. And then, so when a person is doing a organic biodynamic regenerative farm like you're doing, how is it that you are not getting the pests? Like, what is it that you use? Is it the raptors that eat the gophers? Is it the, like, how do you deal with the bugs, all that stuff? What do you do?
I mean, it's not that we don't get the pests, is that we start, like I said, on the preventative side of things. So we keep close eye on the health of our soil, the moisture in our soil, that we call it the tilth in the soil. So instead of it being big, like the texture is probably another way to say tilth. So we look at all these things before we're even planting, and then we're planting ingredients, varieties that work good for our soil, but that are work with the seasons. So, and then if there's pest pressure, we're constantly evaluating that. So examples of things where you see pest pressure: growing ingredients out of season. So trying to grow kale in the summer, you're going to have pest pressure. Pests are really just an indicator that things are out of balance. Your soil is out of nutrition. And we can see that with the pandemic. Things are out of balance. This is just an example of that, but you can see that in a small garden, and just like you can see that across the globe.
Right.
And so it's seeking balance. How do you what's needed now in order to bring us back into balance so that things start to line up again? And
I love that. And
yeah.
just what you said, pests are an indication that there's an imbalance, just like disease is an indication that there's some imbalance in the body, that the pests are like a disease in that sense, where you're doing something that you haven't been funding your immune system in your body, or funding the immune system of the soil of the planet. So what you're saying makes so much sense to me. And so, I was going to ask you, my next question is, what's the value of growing food in accordance with the seasons? Is there more value to it than, not getting pests because you're growing, you're forced growing food when it's not meant to grow? What other value or what other benefit is it to grow in season food?
Well, we try to swim downstream, so it's spring and we're planting our summer garden, garden is, the farm. That's tomatoes and peppers and cucumbers and squash. And that's just going in now. We're not trying to overwinter that stuff. We really, part of the expression of our values is eating in season, so we have a series of principles that relate back to food, which is to, buy local. So to support those artisans in your community, to eat seasonal, and then to choose organic. Those are kind of like the three big pieces for us, and in that order. So local is the hierarchy in building economy. Seasonal is everything, so what's in season right now? What are we eating? We're eating a lot of citrus, and berries are happening right now, and we're kind of on the tail end of the cool season. So it's all the love, we're kind of getting tired of that, but the leafy greens and radicchios all the way through the brassicas, broccolis, cabbages, you name it. The lettuces are perfect right now, but we're not eating other things. It's not warm season. We have two seasons in this climate. And so, and then therefore, the organic is obviously an important one too, but it comes after we calibrate to the seasons and to the geography.
I love that. And so basically what you're saying is that if you nourish the soil, and if you have the tilth or the texture of the soil right, and you have the biomimicry or the biodiversity in the soil, and if you have the right amount of water, and if you have it protected enough, and if you're growing in season, the stuff that works for that season, and if you're paying attention, you probably won't need pesticides, is what you're saying. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, you line it all up. It's just, again, working with nature, not against it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that is so hot. It's so beautiful. I feel chills all over my body because it makes so much sense, and it's so simple. It's listening to nature. It's respecting nature's rhythms. It's respecting what nature came to us with before we all started putting crap in the stuff, that biodiversity in the soil. I mean, when any place that has not been infiltrated by man, except for like in the high Arctic or the South Pole, there's just an abundance of verdant growth that is so profoundly abundant, miraculously abundant. It's just ridiculously abundant, you know? There's such an abundance that nature provides. And I love that you're working in harmony with it. And do you still surf?
Oh yeah. Yeah. As often as I can.
Awesome. Awesome. And
Yeah.
have your kids gone out at all?
Oh yeah. Yeah. My whole family surfs. My wife's a great surfer, and my little boy Ocean, he surfs. Seiji's not there yet, but
Awesome.
he'll be better than all of us, I'm sure.
Oh, that's so cool. I love that. I love that so
Yeah.
much. Well, Evan Marks with the Ecology Center in San Juan Capistrano, how do people get in touch with you?
Yeah, we've got our website, 2022. It's called theecologycenter.org.
How clever.
Yeah, and they can find us on Instagram at the Ecology Center just the Ecology Center,
Okay.
and jump on the train and come visit.
Yeah. And then when people come to your events, you have events, are they on the website? Is it like a weekly event or a monthly? Like you said, the farm to table event or something like that?
Yeah, we have farm dinners here with visiting chefs most Fridays. So you can find all of these events on the calendar: farm tours, workshops, kids programming. But every day there's something happening here.
Wow.
And
Wow, wow,
so it's
wow.
a full offering.
Gosh, thank you so much for being so generous with your time. Thank you so much for helping the earth heal. Thank you for caring about your community, about the earth, about the seeds, about other farmers, you know.
Yeah, thanks, Karen. Appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay, talk soon.
Take care.
Bye.